You're listening to Around Comics. 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 Comics.
You are listening to Around Comics, episode 437, with Brian Salazar and Chris Niesman and Tom
Hi.
Caters eventually, whenever he gets
Where's
here.
Tom?
He's not here. He is not. Again, I'm sure his children are giving him problems. If you're watching on video, which some of you are, I have some Christopher Pike level
Wow.
hair going on today.
That is.
I'm not sure what caused it.
That's some rise.
It just,
baby.
it's been like this all day, and I don't know why. And I had
hate
meetings.
I
had
hate
video
you. I hate
meetings.
you.
And I
I
just,
hate you.
I mean, I must
hate
have.
you.
That's
I
like-
hate you. I
that's
hate
a
you. I
good-
hate you. I hate
It's
you.
like a 5-inch, 6-inch fucking hairdo. I look like 6'3" with this
Yeah.
hair.
So I had.
What's going on?
I had a cancer skin surgery this week, and it was right behind my ear, and the doctor said, "Man, it is so much easier operating on bald people."
Wow.
So I want you to say that you should probably shave your head, otherwise you might die of cancer.
No.
You should shave your
That's
head,
okay.
Sal. You
I'm
should
good. Not
shave
gonna
those
happen.
lovely, beautiful locks.
If
or
I
you
do
could
get
die of
cancer,
cancer.
I'll have to weigh the value of chemotherapy because
Are we gonna have to
I
start
don't
calling
think
you Anson Mount Salazar?
I think it's Captain.
Captain
That's
Salazar.
a captain.
It's
That's the
Captain
captain's
Salazar.
hairdo, my
It's
friend.
finally happened. It's finally
It might be an
Hi,
admiral.
buddy. I feel like I haven't talked to you in a million years.
What? It was like days.
No, I was gone. I was gone last week, and then we
Oh,
didn't do an
right.
ACTV this week. I'm just like bubbling with things to talk about TV wise.
Joy and excitement.
We may do a little ACTV chat tonight. I mean, we had the end of Rings Power. We got the finale of She-Hulk. House of the Dragon is getting really political. Surprise. All sorts of fun stuff. And then like comics and shit.
All I've watched is horror movies, slasher films, Stanley Kubrick movies.
I bet yes, yeah.
That's all I've been
Yeah,
watching. Tom's here. Hey, Tom.
Hey,
Barry
what's up?
Lyndon's a really long movie.
Oh, I didn't bother rewatching that because I watched that years ago, and I know it's not in my top 5. So I was like, I'm not going to rewatch that.
I enjoyed it.
It's beautiful.
If you were to have a top 5 movies for like really interesting hair, it's in there.
I mean, it's one of the most beautiful movies maybe ever shot. It's absolutely
it's really
gorgeous.
pretty.
I mean,
It's really
it's like
pretty.
oil. Yeah, it's like a moving oil painting.
All that candlelight.
That's right. You get some shadows, some deep shadows, and
You didn't realize
yeah.
how dark everything was in the 18th century.
Right? They
It's
didn't
no
have
electricity.
lights.
There was no light. There was just the sun
It's
and
just
fire.
candles,
That's it. Yeah,
that's
no
it.
electricity.
Hi, Tom.
I wanted to let you guys know a little announcement about the show. We finally, after all these years, we've done it. We finally succeeded. We are currently trending number 22 in visual arts on the film and TV charts in Panama. In Panama, we're huge.
We finally made it. We finally made
We're
it.
huge in Panama. Just so you guys know, So
Buenos dias.
I don't know. Buenos dias, Panama,
So-
Panamanians,
Come on.
Panamaniacs.
All my
Como
Panamaniacs out there.
Panamaniacs.
Yeah.
Let's hear from our
Um,
Panamaniacs. If you're in Panama,
uh,
reach out to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Please,
Yeah.
if you're in Panama and you're listening to the show, I know. Yeah, we have there's some strange places that we're relatively popular, or at least we show up high in the popular charts on Apple. Not in the U.S. Americans hate us,
No,
but
despised.
Panama, Singapore loves us. I think Panama,
Yeah.
we're huge there.
Nick Lindsay loves us.
Nick Lindsay came to watch us instead of Mark Bernardin. I don't know who that is. He's talking to Ed Brubaker live at the same time.
We're gonna talk some Brubaker tonight.
Let's be honest, Brubaker's a dud. We've talked to him many times.
We've talked to him. We've done it. What else we're gonna ask him about?
Yeah,
I talked to him when he was good.
You like crime stories? Yeah. Like, what kind of stuff are you into?
You guys gonna talk about G4 getting shut down by Comcast?
I don't know anything about that, Nick. I have no information on G4 being shut down by Comcast.
G4 got shut down this week, and
okay,
I think
I have a question.
Real quick. Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, it's in reference to this.
Mm-hmm.
What is G4?
G4 is a station. It's on it's a cable station centered around video games.
Oh,
that was
gotcha.
Attack of the Show was on G4.
I'm still here. My camera just died.
So without G4, there would be no Olivia Munn.
Oh wow!
Oh, we have them to thank for that monster.
Yeah, it's Nick, I think you just answered yourself. It says G4 is a YouTube channel. It's popular 99 to 2002, and I think that's what they're going to go back to being. I think it's with video games. I think it just translates so much better to YouTube than it does to an actual like operating
TV channel.
I
only watch Pluto TV. I watch like Barney Miller, Kojak.
I love Barney Miller. Tubi.
That's the only show
Tubi.
I was watching a movie on Tubi today called it was in the background as I was working, but it was The Eyes of Laura Mars. I've been listening to the Video Archives, the Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery podcast, and they do like 2 or 3 movies they talk about. That was one of the movies, and I had never even heard of it. It's Tommy Lee Jones, Faye Dunaway. Tubi's got some excellent like obscure movies and stuff on there that you can watch. But another thing that for those that are interested, Nightwing Plus or Night Flight. Remember the old speaking of
Night fucking A, yeah.
Remember Night Flight? Well, they have a channel, Night Flight Plus.
It's expensive.
No, it was like $4 a month or something, or like $50 for the year. Not even. It was like $40 for the year.
Okay. Then it's
Chris ain't paying that.
That's too much.
You know how
much Night Flight was a part of growing up.
You know how much ice that gets in a curling rink? $40 will get you far.
He paid more for that Joy Division T-shirt, I think, than he probably did.
Probably.
Than I paid for Night Flight. But yeah, Braxton actually turned me on to Night Flight Plus. Let's see what's on right now. On the old Night Flight. I love how there's all this sort of retro TV, and I have a Shudder account, which is phenomenal. Shudder is just amazing, especially this time of year with Halloween and everything. You just all sorts of crazy horror movies and
there's such a wealth of just like we've talked about before, like the B movie world that existed for decades, where it's just like all these movies, just like nowadays they disappear into like Netflix's algorithm, and you never know they exist. But they used to be on the shelves at Blockbuster or whatever.
That's right.
Whatever your rental place was.
Hollywood Video.
What's this?
Wait a minute.
Hollywood Video.
I was a Hollywood Video fan.
Family Video. I thought they had was around.
Family Video. Yeah, that was another one. There was a Family Video. Family. Circle Video. I don't remember. Yeah, there was a couple of mom and pop ones by me, and the mom and pop ones were always fun because they were like curated a little differently than like a Blockbuster or a Hollywood, so you can get some weird shit, which was kind of cool. Yeah, I miss those interesting.
I was gonna say, I mean, there's a charm to that, but there's also like the feeling of like, oh, I want to watch this movie, and then being like, no store has it, or if they do have it, somebody else already has it checked out, and then you're just like, well,
yeah,
I guess I'm not watching it.
Guess I'm not getting that one. But there is definitely a bonus to like the idea that I can think of, or I can come across the most random, obscure film, from 1973 that I've never heard of, that some podcast tells me about, and then I want to watch it, and it's probably I could probably watch it within 5 minutes. I could probably find it and watch it within 5 minutes
somehow.
Which is pretty amazing.
It's
dangerous.
I worked at a video store in high school, and we would literally have people lined up next to the return box waiting for someone to return a new movie. It's like, is one of those T2?
Yeah.
They would stand there for maybe an hour or two, just hoping to be there when a movie was returned, so they could call dibs on it.
I went down to the video store to wait for someone to return Terminator 2.
Right? It fucking happened, man.
Could be quick. Could take all night. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was always a weird. And then you transition from that to like Redbox, where it's like, oh, you don't even have to walk into a store. You can just go and get a DVD, and then Netflix just destroyed all of it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a charm. There's like a charm to the idea of like video stores, but there's also like, the convenience of just going, oh, I can just, click. Yeah. But it is dangerous for like a lunatic like me that I love movies, and I love weird movies, and I like, get it, like I can just watch all sorts of weird shit.
How many movies a week do you start and not finish? I see that in you, where you're like, no.
It depends. I mean, there's different reasons. I probably average like 4 or 5 movies that I'll start and not finish, but most of the time I don't finish them because I've either seen them before and I'm gonna finish them at another time. So, I'm watching them sort of passively, and then I got to go do something, so I turn it off, and then maybe I go back to it at some point, maybe I don't. If it's something I've never seen before, that's pretty rare. But if it's something I've seen already, and it's just sort of, I'm just putting it on to, because maybe I want to see it again, or maybe I just kind of want to have something on in the background.
T2.
T2. Yeah.
T2.
People don't remember how big that fucking movie was, Tom.
Then there's sometimes where I just fall asleep. I mean, we've talked about that, where it's just like I start a movie, and I was watching The Shining the other night, and I love The Shining. I'm a huge fan of Kubrick. But at like 9 o'clock on a Wednesday, as I'm trying to watch, it's like, I mean, it's a slowly paced film. It's it's deliberate.
So we're getting ready to do our top 5 Kubrick movies on Film Force 5, so that's why that comes up, because I did the same thing with The Killing. I got about a half hour into The Killing, and it's like, I'm gonna go sleepy time now.
Listen, Kubrick is a genius, but his movies are not. They're not action packed. A lot of them. They're very deliberate, slowly paced films. Brilliant, but and I think I honestly feel like between the internet and on demand and just how things have changed, my attention span is not what it once was, and I have a harder time like being able to sort of focus. All of a sudden I'm grabbing my phone and I'm on fucking TikTok or something. It's like, I just want to see someone dance for like, you know, the next 12 seconds and then go to another video of someone else dancing for 12 seconds. And then, you know, somebody getting kicked in the nuts. And, you know, it's like, it's this weird
checking baseball scores.
Yeah, just I don't know. But yeah, Film Force 5, we have 2 episodes out. We've done 2 episodes. If you're interested in that, it's our other podcast, Chris, I, and Will. We're going to have Tom on there someday when we can get schedules right. But Film Force 5 is our other podcast. I've had a blast so far doing it. Wasn't really sure what it was going to be when we started it, other than talking about movies, but it ended up turning out better than I think we thought it would.
It's fun.
And we're going to have a special guest coming up next week in honor of
slasher
Halloween.
Movies.
We're going to do slasher movies, the best slasher movies of all time. We're going to have a special guy, a guy who I think is an expert. I think you can confidently call him an expert on the slasher genre.
Yeah, hacking and slashing. It's really good.
Is that
hacking slashing?
Do you have to weigh his choices differently? You know, like he gets like a weightier.
No,
he's pinch hitting. He's pinch hitting for me because I'm not a big slasher film guy. So this guest, we'll call him Jim, he's gonna be my pinch hitter. Kenny's gonna make.
Are we? I already said his name.
Oh, it's Tim. Oh, it's Tim.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure someone
said. It's Tim Seeley. Tim Seeley, creator of Hack Slash and many other comics, artist, writer, all that stuff. The hardest working man in comics. And he's going to join us to do slasher films, so that should be fun. He's an expert.
And Nick Lindsay asks, "Who's the Will from Film Force 5?" It's Will Pfeiffer.
Will Pfeiffer, comic book writer. Will Pfeiffer, our friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Will and
Nick, if you were a Patreon subscriber, you would know that because we've done an entire year of K-Billy Super Sounds with Will, going over the films of Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, that's how this kind of got born, the Film Force 5. But this is a whole separate thing. It's out there now. There's 2 episodes. The first one was what did we do? Oh, Quentin Tarantino films. So we did the top 5 Quentin Tarantino films to sort of recap our year of talking about Tarantino. And then we did 70s dystopian was our second one, which was a fun episode. So we're gonna do all
awesome. It was basically Will and I annoying Sal.
I would say bullying
Sal into the fact that Rollerball is a top 5 dystopian movie.
Wow. Wow, I know how strongly you feel about Rollerball not being a good movie.
Will feels equally as I do that Rollerball is one of the 5 best 70s dystopian movies.
Listen, when I started this podcast, I didn't realize I was working with 2
hacks.
Just absolute amateur critics with no real sense of film cinematography or
he's so mad that Westworld. He's so mad that Westworld didn't make the top 5. But that's the thing, you get to make your own nominations.
So these guys, they watch movies. They're not interested in film. They're just movie watchers.
All right, Nick, I'm going to answer a couple of your questions here. One, is there supposed to be 5 people? Well, there technically is kind of 5 people. There's the 3 of us whenever Tom decides to join. He's an official member of Film Force 5. It's just a matter of scheduling. And then Will is 4, and then whenever we have a guest. But the reality is the show only kind of works if we have 3, maybe 4 people. If we had 5, it would be way too long, and you're going to listen to like a 2-hour. Maybe if we ever get to the point where we do like a live show or something, we would have more people. But for now, no, it's just Film Force 5 because I like the name. And it's top 5.
It's a top 5. It's a top 5.
Yeah.
It's a top 5.
It's a top 5 movie podcast. Yeah. Quentin has 10 movies. Not 9. And we also did the ones that he wrote. So we also did from Dust talked about Dust Till Dawn, True Romance, American Psycho, not American Psychos.
The Natural Born
Killers. And you are and his next movie, he said yes will be his last if he makes another movie, but who knows what what he has.
Maybe he won't make another one.
Ooh. He's gonna go into TV. Hey, this is a comic book show. You want to talk about some comics?
Too bad. All I read was a big boy book.
Oh no! What'd you do? What'd you read? What'd you read, man?
I texted this earlier. Do you know?
I know. And I want to tell people.
text?
I want to tell people that Sal's response to your text was, "Is that Doctor Doom?"
It kind of looks like it.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
It was a joke. You know, I mean, it's a metal mask.
It did kind of look like Dr. Doom, though.
Is that Dr. Doom? Which, by the way, I'm listening to the Marvel podcast, Wastelanders, Dr. Doom, and it is entertaining AF. I'm really enjoying it. So,
no one cares.
The book I'm reading, The Shadow of the Torture by Gene Wolfe. I picked it up based on a recommendation from a TikTok account that I follow.
Well,
recommends books, and I was like, all right. I was like, I'll give it a shot. You know, I've been sort of, you know, I'm in the mood to dive back and read things I haven't read previously in the past, and I was like, okay, this sounds kind of interesting, and it's quite short,
nice.
Which is nice for Mr. Low Attention Span. It's the first of like a 4-part series that was this award-winning sci-fi fantasy like story arc to it. And he's a very good writer, Gene Wolfe. He lived in Barrington, right outside Chicago.
Oh,
Local
northwest suburb.
Barrington Wolves.
Yeah. And so it's usually I'm not a big fantasy or like, I guess like the more fantastical edge of sci-fi reader, because usually like the books are really long and I like the prose is like a little too flowery for me, from like my own taste of like reading, and I get really
love
burnt
Tolkien.
out. I just like when you get into the stories and they're describing everything, and like it's just too much. Like I'm like, just I don't care about like what jewels were inlaid within the table, you know, like it's fine.
Why not? Why?
Why don't you want to know this information? It's like,
what kind of fantasy fan are you, Tom?
Oh my God, here we go. Now we're gonna talk about the contents of their bag for like the 800th time. Just like, oh my God, like how much bread do they have left? You know, and like, God damn, like all that stuff. Like he's a very like, it's got elements of that like floweriness to it, but it feels more for a purpose of like the tone of the actual character in it. And it's used to really, you know, great effect, not just like in the description of things or to try and sound like bigger than it is, but more of like what it reveals about the character who thinks in this sort of like some of the, you know, flowery type descriptions of things. And yeah, it's really good. I'm like halfway through and I'm like, I love it. It's like nice,
love it.
Great story. Yeah, I'm totally sucked into it. And I'm usually this type of book, I'm like 100 pages in, nothing's happened, you know, and you're sort of like, what the fuck? Like, what is this even about?
They're
like,
world building, Tom. They're world building.
Yeah, but you can world build quickly, which is what this book does. You know, like the book does a really great job of like, as the story moves forward and you're following this character who essentially works as like he's in the executioners guild on Earth, like in the far future, and things are not great on Earth. Like it's very much a world where like we used to go to other planets and we colonized Mars, but now all that's over and everything is kind of like dying and like society is kind of crumbling. And he's an apprentice in the Executioners Guild who breaks a rule and he gets sent off to like be like an executioner in this small town, like way off. And it's all about his journey, like all that stuff that happens. And it's like chapters are only like 5 or 6 pages long. And it's just like, he just like moves the story like very quickly, but very like skillfully, so like you can learn things about the world, but you don't learn everything about the world. You kind of only know like what the character knows, right? So like this isn't like an entomology of everything story, because he doesn't know, the character doesn't know that stuff, you know, like the character lives in this one building for his whole life.
This doesn't even sound like fantasy, Tom. The way you're describing
so,
it.
when he leaves, yeah, I know, right? It's like, oh, wait a second, it's not super long, and you actually only know what the character knows. But yeah, I mean, it's that, I think that's part of why it works so well, is like he keeps the story so centered around the character, you know, and it's like you're not taking these like weird detours off into like other things. Like it's about him and the stuff that's happened to him.
So you said it's fantasy though. Like
it is, so it's like a weird fiction. It's science fiction, almost like science fiction so far in the future that it's now fantasy.
Okay,
it has fantasy tones to it, you know, like
right.
There's guards at a gate,
and there's executioners in a town, and
yeah, and there's stuff like that. But like the underlying is that it's in the far future, and there's like pieces of technology left, but no one really knows how to like totally use them. And like
at first, I kind of was picturing like a Ray Bradbury sort of like, it's an executioner union, and it's the, you know, it's like the boring everyday.
No, it's like very like D&D fantasy type stuff, like from like the way things are named to like the, you know, he gets gifted a sword that has a name to it as he's like kicked out of the guild and stuff like that.
Fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that fantasy aspect to it, but there is a science fiction like background to like what's happening around them. So it's like a really weird, it's an interesting mix of like of those genres.
Cool.
Interesting.
And it's from like 1980. It's old.
Really?
It's like an old book. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a
Why
big
does
deal.
This sound like something that should have been part of our childhood.
I don't know. It's part of the. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Gene Rodman Wolfe, born May 7th, 1931. He died April 14th, 2019. American science fiction and fantasy writer. He was noted for his dense, elusive prose, as well as the strong influence of his Catholic faith. He was a prolific short story writer and novelist, and won many literary awards. Wolfe has been called the Melville of science fiction, and was honored as a Grand Master by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. He's best known for his Book of the New Sun series, 4 volumes. The first part of his solar cycle. In 1998, Locus magazine ranked it the 3rd best fantasy novel published before 1990, based on a poll of subscribers that considered it and several other series as single entries. So yeah, interesting. I've never heard of him. I'm not familiar with his work.
I haven't either. Until this TikTok guy was like, hey, you should read this.
Fucking like, TikTok. We're not recommending books. Look at that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like he's recommended other books that I've enjoyed. So I was like, yeah. I mean, it's funny because it made me think a lot about, you know, in our current world, you know, with search engine optimization, we live in like the era of lists. But like most lists about like if I were to look up like top 20 sci-fi fantasy books, they'd all essentially be kind of the same list because people are just like aggregating the same
top 10 graphic novels.
It's like the thing is, it's like I'm kind of like, oh wow, I felt weird to find something I had never heard of, like that was popular and well regarded, and like was a total blind spot to me. Like I've never even heard the name, like not even like. It was a very like, it was like, oh, this is like something I haven't felt in a long time. Of like,
yeah,
I didn't know this thing existed. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I had no idea. You know, like, what is this?
Yeah, that is always an interesting thing of like those blind spots when you find, you know, I definitely know, you know, like I read a lot of science fiction early on when I was young. And then a lot of fantasy stuff into my 20s, maybe. But then after that, I kind of really went away from it. So there's a huge chunk of time where it's like I didn't really read much of that stuff at all. So I'm sure there's, and every once in a while, like when I listen to people that are like hardcore science fiction or fantasy fans, and they're talking about books, I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know anything about those. Yeah. Piers Anthony, who's that?
I'm actually listening to the Dragonlance Chronicles now. That's my audiobook series.
I've read that. I probably shouldn't say this, but I actually stayed home from school one day to read. I think it was the 3rd volume of that, because I read it in a day. I was waiting for that.
No one.
Yeah,
surprises no one in this room.
You're waiting for.
I was waiting for that book to come out, and I stayed home from school to read that.
Which one? It's what's the 3rd?
Autumn. No, that's not
Autumn Twilight.
No, Winter. I don't remember now. Fuck, I can't even remember. It's been forever. It's the blue one, I think.
I'm enjoying it. It's man, but whenever you listen to it or read it, it really does read as a D&D campaign.
Winter Night, Dragons of Winter Night.
Dragons of Winter Night. Yeah.
Autumn Twilight, Winter Night, and Spring Dawning. Spring Dawning is actually the 3rd one. Winter Night is the 2nd one. The blue one. I read those books so much. I still
you're a Flint Fireforge guy, right?
I was always a Tannis. I was a huge Tannis fan, but I also like the Rasslin and Karaman, that story. I was a huge Rasslin fan. Raistlin. I don't know. I loved all those characters. I mean, I've told you guys this over and over many times how I wrote to George Lucas to make those in the movies. I wrote his offices as a teenager or whenever it was. I was probably in my let's see. No, I would have been a teenager.
Like, are you aware of this?
And I got a letter back from his secretary. It was a very nice letter, saying that George does not make anything. He does not make films that he doesn't write.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope you wish I had that letter.
No, I don't. I was like 13 when I did that, dude. I mean, I was like 13 years old. I wish I had that. I wish I had that letter. God, do I wish I had that letter now. And maybe I do somewhere. It could be somewhere.
That would be so awesome if you had that.
Oh, if I ran across
that's fucking frameable.
Believe me, if I ran across that letter today in a Foot Locker or a book or something, I would flip out. I would that would be one of my most cherished possessions for sure. But I did, and I don't even know where I wrote or how I got his address or what address. I think I wrote it to like Industrial Light and Magic, because I had like a book.
Nice.
I had a book on like the Industrial Light and Magic special effects, because I was a huge special effects nerd. And so I think that's where I just wrote Industrial Light and Magic, and I'm like, "Dear Mr. Lucas, I don't know if you're aware, there's this wonderful trilogy of books, blah, blah, blah." And I even was like, I think if I remember correctly, I was sort of like, I'm not sure what, how this kind of thing works. Like, its own, the writers, I think, I don't know. I said all sorts of weird, I was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, a couple months or 3 months later, I got a letter back from his office. It was on letterhead, and it was his secretary or someone. And she was just like, George doesn't make movies that he doesn't write, but we really thank you for your, writing us. Yeah, it was a really nice letter back. But God, I wish I had it. I wish so much that I could find that letter somewhere. But I don't think I do. I think it probably got thrown away or something.
You ripped it up and threw it away.
No, I wasn't. No,
Dragonlance, dummies.
No, I mean, I don't even know why. I just was like, it's 3 movies. It's 3 books. He made 3 movies already. He knows how to make 3. He knows how to make a trilogy. That's all my thinking was like, this is an awesome trilogy. He would make this would be an awesome trilogy for him to make. It would have been way better than what he did end up fucking doing the next decade.
Well, actually, can we transition out of that? Have you guys watched Andor? Are you caught up on Andor?
I don't think I'm caught up on it. I might be a couple episodes behind.
Tom, how about you?
No, but feel free to talk.
It is so fucking good. It is so good. The first 3 episodes probably could have been compressed into 2. I thought that, there's a little fat there, but
Oh, see, I enjoyed the first 2-3 episodes more than I did
the heist.
Well, I haven't gotten to the heist, but the in between
oh,
the
oh,
first 3 episodes when he's just on the planet.
oh,
I'll tell you what.
It gets going. Oh my god, it's the heist. I've watched that episode 3 times.
Yeah,
because
I
it's
haven't
that
seen it.
fucking good. Oh, it's
As
so
soon
good.
as soon as he shaved his facial hair, I lost interest. Like, I'm not even joking.
What?
As soon as
what does that even mean?
As soon as when he got to the planet with all the rebels, he shaved his facial hair and he looked less cool, and I lost interest.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's totally true.
Did you notice that Cousin Richie from The Bear is in it?
Oh yes, yeah. He's
also
very
an asshole in this.
Also, not as big of an asshole as he is in The Bear, but
keep watching.
Well, yeah, maybe.
It's so good. It is such the center cut core Star Wars that I want, because it's not about Jedis. It's really about the formation of the rebel, what would be the Rebel Alliance. It is so good. It is. I want this series to go on forever. I'm thrilled. It's 12 episodes, and we're just past the halfway point. It is so good.
I still want. It is very good. It's very well done. It's so well done that the first and like why I like the first 3 episodes so much is that it doesn't even feel like it's Star Wars. Like it's just a really good sort of sci-fi story.
Yeah.
In this interesting world, because in the first 3 episodes, you don't even hear the word Empire. You don't see a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
You don't hear Jedi. There's no lightsabers. There's barely blasters.
They're just out in their
outer rim, sort of like
outer
planet.
Rim.
Yeah. And
the corporations
I loved it.
Kind of do it. Yeah. Right.
But then it gets into sort of the more, putting the band together part of building the Rebel Alliance, which is interesting. Yeah. But I want to get to the point in Star Wars where we have a Star Wars show or movie that really has fucking nothing to do with the Empire, with the Rebels, or you know what I mean? Like, I would love to see some sort of show that is just nothing to do with it. Like, it could be in the background, but tangentially, where it never comes up.
It's a huge canvas to work with. What I do like about this one that we haven't seen before, except in like what was the stop motion comedy show, Seth Green's
Robot Chicken.
The Robot Chicken. We don't really see anyone like focus on the mundane tasks of being a part of government in the Empire, and now we're seeing kind of like the corporate structure and cubism of office spaces in the Empire, and I think that's kind of interesting. In it's like, oh yeah, they are us and we are them, very much so.
The interesting thing, I think we talked about this before, is like, watching it a bit. Initially, it's like the rebels are terrorists.
They're terrorists, absolutely.
They're not necessarily the good guys. Depending on who, what perspective you're looking at. It's an interesting sort of thing. Like in any other society, they would be the terrorists. They would be kind of the bad guys, which is an interesting thing, especially in our current sort of day and age and confused political sort of ideologies that are existing in the world, and it's just sort of like who tells the story.
The victors. And we were talking about this on ACTV. It's the whenever you run into the 501st at a comic convention or whatever, these are the cosplayers, the Star Wars cosplayers, they don't break character. And whenever you start talking about the Rebel Alliance and the Empire, they're like, we stand for law and order in the galaxy, and they are terrorists. It's just like, wow. And you watch this show, and it's like, yeah, if you replace, keep the same story and, replace some characters, and tell it from the other angle, the Rebel Alliance, they're terrorists.
What's the difference between a terrorist and a rebel? I don't know. Yeah.
Who wins?
Yeah, I guess.
Who wins? It's so good.
It is very good. I got to catch up on it. I have not. I do need to catch up on it. But
so the heist episode's so good, and the episode after it, it's such a great follow up. And yeah, I'm loving, not just like, I'm loving this show.
I've been too busy watching slasher films and Kubrick movies and
70s
dystopian.
Watching Barry Lyndon with a fine-tooth comb.
3 hours and 5 minutes, my friends. That's a long fucking movie.
Yeah,
that is a long movie of it's a lot of Ryan O'Neal. That's a bit more Ryan O'Neal than I ever need in my life.
A lot of Ryan O'Neal. He's good in it.
Things moved slower back in history. Yes. Darker. Just everything happened at a
bigger hair.
Just like at a slower pace. That's just how.
Except you died young, so
yeah. So
you would
waiting
think
in line sucks even worse. Yeah.
Right?
We got to hurry it up.
We got to get good things going. I'm dying at 32. I'm 27. I'm over the hill.
I have at least 3 or 4 kids, and
I got to get shit moving.
Yeah. Don't buy your kid a pony. That's the moral of that movie.
Don't buy your kid a pony. Yeah.
Don't buy your kid a pony.
I have read an actual comic book this week. Well, I haven't finished reading it, but I started reading it. Started reading a hardcover. The new Reckless book is out by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Follow Me Down. I love the cover. It sort of has a very Tom Savini looking kind of bad guy lighting a cigarette. Yeah, the I don't know if this is the 5th or the 6th volume. The 5th. This is the 5th volume of the Reckless series. And it's just more goodness. We're back to Ethan. The last one was much more about his girl Friday, and it was her story, but this is another Ethan story, and it's set in the 90s, and it's about he's hired, but he's on a case for sort of a friend looking for this woman, and we find out really early on that the woman has disappeared. She has a troubled past, and in the very beginning of the book, so this is a spoiler, but I mean it's like literally page 2 of the book, she murders some guy in a car with a gun, and we don't know why, we don't know who it is, so the rest of the story is sort of like finding out why she did this, and it's typical Brubaker Phillips. It's noir-y. It's a lot of monologue and sort of detective story, and Ethan's not the nicest guy. That's the one thing reading this volume, like I don't know if it was more pronounced in this comic than the previous ones, but it's like he's a pretty brutal dude, and he's not he kind of makes fun of himself at one point, like he's like, yeah, I'm not really good at interrogation if I can't beat the shit out of someone. Like I'm, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of just he's got some anger issues, and he takes it out on bad guys. But once again, it's like, who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? Who are you to decide?
And we're in the 90s now, so he's not young anymore, and it's been moving that way. I mean, we were in the 80s, but this started the series started in the early mid 70s.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not the 90s. It's November 1989. So
we're on the cusp of the 90s. But I mean, the first one started, it was early 70s, right? So I mean,
was it? I thought it was the 80s. I thought it was like 82 or something, or 84 or something like that.
Yeah, but regardless, he's starting to get older.
He's
right?
starting to age, yeah, a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I haven't finished it yet.
1981.
81, okay.
Was the first.
So, but it's just another good story from Brubaker and Phillips. If you like their stuff, you're gonna like this. It's it's your not so typical kind of private investigator story, mystery. He sets it up from the beginning, and then we're waiting the rest of the rest of the book to figure out why. I don't know. Every time I read one of these, it's just like it reminds me of a season of like Beretta or Kojak, or it's like one of those 70s, 80s,
the Rockford Files.
Yeah, it's very much like this is a season, or this is a 3-episode special arc of that show, because that's very much what it is. It's not, the things that happen in it are not crazy in the sense of like they're not fantastic, they're not wild, you don't have insanity. It's not, it borders on mundane, a lot of it.
It's just really well done, hard-boiled crime.
But it's not, I don't even know if it's that hard.
It's not that hard. It's not that hard-boiled, right?
Yeah, it's really not. And that's what I mean. Like it's a poached crime.
Yeah, it's still a little squishy in the center.
Yeah. But it's like it's like one of those sort of TV shows from the early 80s that I remember my dad watching. Like that's what it just is one of those shows where it's like the stakes are not that high. That Ethan is gonna probably end up on top at the end. He may learn something. It's not, he's not gonna have a huge story arc. He's not gonna have like a huge character arc where like he changes a lot throughout the story, or even learns a lesson. It's just gonna be sort of like and the way he tells it, with Ethan being the narrator most of the time of the stories, it's almost like begrudgingly, like he's telling the story and he's not necessarily
and it's all done in retrospect. It's like, this was really kind of fucked up, let me tell you about it.
Exactly. And it's it's like a proud thing, like he's doing it almost begrudgingly.
It's all done with the air of you're listening to this years after the fact, and the setting is a poorly lit, smoky dive bar that this guy is telling you the story, right?
Or it's your fucking uncle or something, and he's in a retirement home or something, or you know what I mean, or like or in prison or something. That's the one thing about like I'm wondering at some point if we're ever going to find out like what is this going to lead up to sort of like present day Ethan Reckless, like where he's at, like where he is now. I kind of hope it does eventually lead to that.
In 5 volumes we've gone a decade, but I think they're leaving enough. I think they're leaving enough room for Brubaker and Phillips to do this series for as long as they want, and then, I'll almost guarantee you that he has the ending already figured out.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Nick Lindsay asked, "Doesn't Reckless have a chick with blue hair in it?" Yeah. What is that? Of course. Yeah. Do you think blue hair didn't exist in the 80s? Trust me, it did.
I think it's actually purple, and it's
purple. Yeah,
it's
violet. Yeah, she's a bit of a punk rocker, and as Ed himself was at one point. So I think that's kind of where that comes from. But
and
there was hair dye in the 80s.
Yeah, Nick may have asked if we think they'll ever put that out as one like mega volume. First of all, we don't know where they're going to stop. I hope they keep making these forever. But I love the I love the single story hardcovers. It's
Never stopping.
Oh, it's it's the perfect size story for this. I mean,
I read like half of it in one like night before bed, and I'm probably gonna read the other half tonight. And yeah, they're pretty easily digestible. It's like pulp. They're like pulp novels. They're really, they're really easy to digest and fun and comforting in some weird way. Like I've gotten to the point now where it's like, well, you even had the reaction when I told you like you didn't know there was a new one that came out.
Oh, I was giddy.
And yeah, it's just like that. It was like, I can't wait to get this in my hands, like, because I know I'm going to enjoy it. I know that I'm going to be just in that world. It's like when I was a kid and like a new Dragonlance book would come out. I couldn't wait to get back into that world with those characters. Like that was, what I loved about Dragonlance were those characters and being in that world and following them around. So when a new one came out, it was like I would stay home from school to read it because I wanted
this is your Dragonlance.
This is my new Dragonlance. This is
Dragonlance.
Yeah.
Probably the first reviewer to compare it to Dragonlance.
I would almost guarantee
this is
that.
just like Are
just
you
like
looking for your new Dragonlance?
Well, that's when I know I'm like I fall in love with a story, or is because all of a sudden I'm in that world and I'm walking around with those characters and I can't wait to get back. But it's much rarer now the older I am than it was when I was younger, and that's just I think part of growing up. But there is that thing of like certain not a lot of comics do that to me anymore, and this is one that certainly does. Like I've just gotten to know these characters so much, and I think that was like why a lot of those TV shows were the same way of like Columbo or something like that, like the Rockford Files. Like, oh, I know what this is gonna be. I know what I'm gonna get out of this. I'm not gonna be too surprised by it. And it's like, oh, it's just living vicariously through those characters and sort of, with this, it's interesting too, because it's like, it's set in a time frame that I grew up in. Like in 1989, I was 18 years old. So it's like, I kind of get what is going on in that world, and that he puts these characters in. So I think that's part of it too. Which is probably, that's just the nostalgia factor, but I can't, Nick says there are 27 Jack Reacher books, so Ed Brubaker has time to get there so the movie or TV show is made. Yeah, Reacher books are like that too. They're very easily to digest and sort of like what you're getting. I've read a half a dozen of them, and
how are they?
They're good, they're fun, they're good, they're not great novels, but they're action, they're good.
They're like the Parker books.
Yeah, they're just, well, Parker's I would say a little weightier than Reacher.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
All right.
But yeah, they're not like crap. They're just easily digestible. They're easily to kind of
they're airplane novels.
They're airplane books. That's the great, they're airplane books for sure. But it's that thing of like, once you read that character, once you read one of them or two of them, it's like, oh, I know what I'm gonna get now out of this guy. He's a badass. He fucking, he just beats the shit out of people, and he's kind of clever.
A joke right before he murders somebody,
But he has like a little bit of, he's a decent person.
Heart of gold.
Yeah, exactly. All the same, very kind of common things of like, he's a softy on the inside, even though he's like 6'5" and 280 pounds of muscle, and
it's Roadhouse.
Greg Porter says, I love the Reacher books, thoughtful, cut above, male revenge fantasy. Yeah, that's what it's just like. It's like for every time you've seen somebody, something shitty happen to somebody and you wish there was somebody to do something about it, well, that's Jack Reacher. Like it's definitely not Tom Cruise. That's the like Reacher fans did not like Tom Cruise because, and it makes sense because it's like, in every one of his books, there's at least one point where Reacher, somebody mentions how fucking big he is. And that's a huge part of him. Like, he's this huge hulking guy that's very intimidating. And that's just, Tom Cruise is not that guy. The dude that they got now that played Hawk. Yeah, he's and the funny thing, have you guys ever seen the sitcom he was on before all that? He was shit, what was it called? It was like a football show, like a college, like a shitty college football team, and he played a jock meathead in it. I cannot think of the name of it. Yeah.
He's really good.
He's very good, but he's great as Reacher.
Yeah. He actually made me care about the character Hawk, which I didn't think was possible.
He was awesome as Hawk. I loved him as Hawk. He was perfect. And I was sad that that character left, but I am waiting for Reacher season 2. Parker's different. Nick Lindsay asked about Parker compared to Reacher. Parker's different. Parker's not a good guy. Reacher's a good guy. Parker's kind of an anti-hero. He's a bad guy who he just fucks up worse guys than him. He's always out. It's like the guys that he is up against are just worse criminals. But Parker's a thief.
If you want a great introduction to that character, is one of my top 5 personal movies is Payback, the director's cut with Mel Gibson, which has problems, but drinking
problems mostly.
That movie is so good at just kind of spelling out who that character is and the world he lives in.
I
love that movie.
Yep. Parker. The Stallone Parker is terrible. What's the original?
Was Lee Marvin? No.
Was it Lee Marvin?
Point Blank?
Yeah. Lee Marvin. That's
Marvin?
a great movie.
Same story as Payback. It's the same. It's the same novel.
Payback. Yeah, Payback's good movie.
Yeah,
fun movie.
Darwin Cook is the only person that Donald Westlake allowed to use the name Parker in the adaptation.
There you go. I didn't know that.
Always,
fun fact. That's in Around Comics. Fun fact.
In Payback, it was Porter.
Yeah.
It was Porter, and it's different names, and every other adaptation except for Darwin Cook's, because Donald Westlake thought that he got hit. So, which I think is cool.
He got it right.
He understood it.
He got it.
I think they redid Point Blank, but I don't know if it has anything to do with the Parker novels at all. But yeah, Angie Dickinson as well in Point Blank.
Yeah,
Lee Marvin. Yeah. Good book too, The Hunter.
Yes,
if you've never read it, but
good stuff. All right. Well, I mean, we just kind of wandered our way through an hour of chit chat.
And
That's
chat.
How we do.
Yeah. Are we good? Does anyone have anything of utmost importance they would still like to talk about tonight?
Well, we could talk about it maybe on Sunday, but I'm interested to see what you thought about the finale of She-Hulk, because I was not.
Should.
I was not crazy about it myself.
First of all, we do have a trade talks coming up. Probably a couple weeks. Tom's pick is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wow,
I don't even have to read it. It is
great. Just watch the movie.
Yeah, it's no.
It'd be funny if you did the whole show, but like it sounded like you were talking about the movie, and you just, like,
so
God. Tom Sawyer, so Huck Finn, like dude.
So I think probably a couple weeks on that. I mean, we could do it next week. It doesn't matter because I think we've all read that one. We can talk to it pretty quickly. quickly.
Well, I haven't read it in a while, so I look forward to reading it.
I'm going to
again.
go back.
Yeah.
I'm actually going through the annotated for the first time, and that's a fucking rabbit hole.
I contributed to that.
Oh, was it? Oh, it was League.
Yeah.
Or I thought, was it League or Watchmen?
No, it was League.
It was League. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. It was what reference was it?
There's a scene with the two guys that have black. They're wearing brown pants and they have like big X's on their shoulders, and it's a reference to the Charlie Chaplin film.
Yeah, the Chaplin Nazi film. Yeah,
because they couldn't do Nazi
anti-Nazi film.
And the little general or whatever. I can't remember what the name of the movie is,
Yeah.
but it was a reference to that, and he hadn't realized that that's what that was. So I just happened to catch it. I have no idea why I
It's
knew
because
that.
every fucking panel in that series seems to have a reference to
multiple
something.
Multiple references. Yeah, I've read it with the annotated book alongside it, and it's insanity like what is included in there. But
I don't think it's in print anymore, but if you can get the absolute edition, it has the second book in there is the annotations.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's the complete annotations or not. I don't remember.
Well, it was as this was printed. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. Good pick, Tom. We're already talking about it. She-Hulk.
We could talk about it. Let's save it for ACTV. Save it for ACTV.
Okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. So yes, we'll talk about that on AC. Maybe I'll watch it again in between now and Sunday. All right, ACTV, which you can listen to ACTV if you are a patron of this here show. We try and record every week with that. We have some other bonus content. You can do that by going to patreon.com/aroundcomics. Want to thank everyone that was in the comments section tonight. You can do that by tuning in live on Thursdays in between 8 and 8:30 Central Standard Time.
Somewhere in there.
When are we going to do the Sectar podcast?
Dude, I'm
the world is waiting.
Okay. Have you read it yet?
No, I
will make that possible for you, and then we will talk about Sectars number 1 on our new Patreon exclusive. Chris and Tom talk about old comics.
Sectars annotated. We're going to annotate issue.
We could
one of the rich of the Sectars.
Now, I told you who wrote it, right?
I forgot if you did.
It's Bill Mantlo.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's pretty good. It is.
I think you guys should call it Nerds of a Certain Age.
Nerds of a Certain Age. Yeah.
Sectar page 1. And it's just 20 minutes of just the first page of Sectar.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. What's are you working remotely these days?
No. I mean, I work from home on Mondays and Fridays, but
we could do like a lunch thing.
Yeah, talk about Sectars during lunch.
Yeah, like 15, 20 minutes over lunch.
Oh, do you think we can get it all in?
It could be a multi-part series.
Tom is intent on really.
Tom's like, this is going to be a 5-hour dissection of Sectars number 1.
Inside each of us is a Sectar, and
the Dissectar episode.
You need to figure out which Sectar you are.
I would love during my week to have a Tom lunch date to talk about comics. That would make me really happy.
Sectars. Now you've done it. In the meantime, you can listen to us, Chris and I, and Will Pfeiffer on Film Force 5 at filmforce5.com or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever podcasts are found. It's our top 5 movie podcast where we talk about different great movies based on different categories. Our first 2 episodes are already out. Quentin Tarantino films, the top 5 Quentin Tarantino films. We rank those, and then 70s dystopian. We have a format. It's a bit of a game show. It's a lot of fun. It makes
the definitive list.
Definitive list. Definitive, unquestioned,
and what Rollerball is in the top 5.
It's really
dystopian movies of all time. Definitively,
the system doesn't work. The system doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's broken, but that's okay. It makes for fun, entertaining talk. It's definitely different. It's definitely a different kind of thing. It is very fun. We keep it light. It's mostly just about trying to talk about movies we love. And yeah, there's not a lot of arguing or anything like that. I mean, a little bit of poking, you know.
Yeah. There's good natured fun and a little ribbing that goes on. We have it's what?
Joshing?
There's some joshing that goes on.
Some horsing around. There might be some horseplay.
Our next 2 shows, Sal already talked about it. We're going to do our top 5 slasher films, and we have Mr. Tim Seeley is going to be joining us as a guest, and then it's our top 5 Stanley Kubrick films. And do we know? We haven't even figured out what we're going to do after that.
I think we kind of know.
We're
zeroing in. Send us your suggestions. Mail us at filmforce5pod@gmail.com. Suggestions for shows. Send us your lists. Disagree with us. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell us what we missed. Tell us what film, what 70s dystopian film was not on the list that should have been on the list.
Probably
I think I already have a couple.
Probably Westworld.
I have a couple of no shit. I have a couple of Logan's
I think
Run.
Westworld's probably, honestly, Westworld is probably better than Soylent Green, which did make the list.
You guys are just terrible at this game, is all I'm saying. You and Will don't know how to pick movies. I don't know.
This is the definitive answer. You can tell me it's supposed to be on there. Well, it's not. So it isn't.
It isn't. It's just not.
It isn't. It's just not.
I made the rules. Sorry. I got to live by them, Tom. It's the way of the world.
It's just,
I can't help it.
If I had the power to change that, I would. I don't.
No one does. No one has the power. It's set in stone now.
It's
for all time.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right. Good to see you guys. Sorry I missed last week. We'll be back again next week, all together again, right?
Tom,
like that weird, like holiday and stuff with trick or treating and all that jazz going on. But I'll be here.
Tom, with that green hoodie, you could kind of pull off like a Dr. Doom.
Oh yeah, like a
Halloween costume.
Why is it everything you see is Dr. Doom today?
I don't know.
I agree with him. This hoodie, this LL Bean hoodie from the Doom collection. That lets you.
It's got a Doom vibe.
A Dr. Doom vibe to it. You put a metal mask right here. Yeah. I feel where you come from.
Listen to that Marvel. Listen to the Marvel podcast. It's fun.
What?
Listen to the Marvel podcast, The Wastelanders Doom. It's if you like Doom.
Jesus, talk about putting the brakes on a conversation. Just fucking screech, halt.
Listen to cast.
Fucking plug someone else's podcast again, why don't you? How many other fucking people's podcast? We don't have enough podcasts to plug? You have to plug someone else's fucking podcast again? The Marvel podcast? You don't think the 7 people that listen to this show know about the fucking Marvel podcast? You think that they've never heard of the fucking Wastelander podcast before you tell them about it? The people that listen to our fucking show. Jesus.
Just trying to bring this thing into the parking spot here.
Oh! Have you tried reading a little comic called The Batman? There's some good ones.
I don't like either one of you anymore.
Please tell us if you found out about the Wastelanders podcast from Chris bringing it up
again.
What's next? You want to talk about Kanye? You want to plug Kanye's new album? Maybe nobody's fucking heard it. I don't know.
What? Can you get the Marvel podcast on any of the like podcast apps?
I don't like either one of you anymore.
Is it like exclusive to like Spotify or something?
In between time.
We'll be everywhere in
and around. Two assholes.
You've been jammed.
The Wastelander.
I totally got
around
jammed.
the Wasteland.
Totally got jammed.
This episode of Around Comics is brought to you by the Marvel Wastelanders podcast, Doom. If you like that, you'll probably like the Wolverine one. How about the fucking Black Widow one? We haven't talked about every single one on our own podcast. We haven't plugged the biggest company in the world's podcast on our podcast. Brought to you by them.
They're good.
Yeah.